So how would you describe your current management style? How would your direct reports describe your management style?
I'm a trust with verification guy. I'm definitely not a micromanager. So I give people I'm not a micromanager, but I'm not hands off either. I feel like both of those didn't fit my personality. So what I do is I assign tasks and I trust that my people are capable and competent enough to do them. But then I make sure to follow up with them, and then I ask for the results and I verify with them that they've achieved the process. And if not, we go through and we relearn why or how. So I really like that style because people don't need to be, most of my reps don't need me every day, all day. They only need me when they need me. And so I'd say I'm kind of an awkward in the middle between the most common management styles.
Has your management style changed as you've gained more experience?
Yeah, I would say that in the beginning, being a new manager, I was trying to understand how to manage people. I obviously had worked for managers for many years before I got my first leadership role, and so, it was my first manager job, and I didn't want to screw it up, and so I wanted to make sure that I knew everything that was going on in my group and every decision that was being made. And I wanted to have a hand in those decisions. And I would probably characterize my management style as being more of a micromanager, not because I necessarily trust my employees, but because I was afraid I would fail at the job. And through honest conversations and some great mentors that I've had over the years, I received some great feedback about taking a more relaxed approach with the employees and improving in that area. And so I feel like I've transitioned from needing to be in the middle of everything that's going on to being much more hands off and trusting of my employees.
So now, what do you consider your personal strengths as a manager? We kind of talked about what you might assume that your direct reports would say is your style, but what do you personally think are your greatest strengths?
I feel like if somebody doesn't really necessarily know exactly what to do, that a manager really needs to get their hands dirty and really, kind of show somebody, how to succeed. And so, I'd say that, working directly with people and showing them how to do something to get them, in order to kind of continue to work, successfully if they're stuck. That's kind of what it takes. It takes devotion and time. I've also worked in international companies. You can probably tell on my background screen there that there's a lot of countries, and so I've worked with Filipinos and Indians and Latin Americans and South Americans and Canadians. I think that one of my greatest strengths is finding kind of commonalities with a lot of different people that have a lot of different cultures and a lot of different diversity.
So when you're kind of looking for new employees or looking to hire somebody, what kind of strengths do you look for in them? Do you kind of like model that after yourself, or you look for somebody that has like a diverse background, or somebody that's like got just the strengths that you're looking for that position?
That's a good question. I think I keep going back to this, but it's very situational. It's what do I need in the organization? Is there, there are some skills that that require specific experience and education. If I'm, and there's some positions you can hire for attitude and temperament and the ability just to work with your team, and you can train somebody to do something.
What are the key metrics to measure good performance?
You know, is the person, how do they approach their job each day? Do they come in with a good attitude? You know, for us, we're in a very service heavy industry where most of our competitors offer the same products that we have. And so service is a way to differentiate ourselves. So an attitude, you know, if you go into a bank and the teller that's helping you is grumpy or doesn't smile at you or isn't friendly, you know, that's not a place you're probably going to want to do business for the long term. So, so attitude is important, obviously.
When you've hired them on and, you know, let's say maybe some of the red flags didn't quite get past you, you know, if they're underperforming, they're not, you know, showing up on time, they're not doing the things you've asked of them, what are kind of the steps that you take to deal with them? How do you?
Right. Well, I think at first, I think any good manager kind of looks at themselves. Like, what did I not do to train that person correctly? Where did I miss, you know, all these big steps? Or so usually for me, like if I see my staff not being able to perform at the level I've expected them to, I kind of beat myself up over it. But then my goals usually are I retrain the staff, and then I kind of put them to the test where either they're going to sink or swim at that point. Sometimes if they have other strengths, then you can play off of those and maybe move them into other spots that you know that they can be successful at. But sometimes in this business, I don't have the time to wait for them to catch on. I think that's what our jobs really are as managers, is to use people's strengths to their best ability. And if we're not doing that from the get-go, then we're probably not very good managers ourselves.
Are there any common ways maybe in other departments that you see people fail as managers? So your management team that's under you, or that you've seen other people, you know, in your same field at other businesses fail as managers?
Yeah, and I would say that would probably come down to communication. I mean, there's just a lot of managers that really are uncomfortable telling people the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they really don't want to sit down and look somebody in the eye and go, hey, I need more out of you, or I think you can deliver more, or, you know, I don't think you did a particularly good job on this.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that I would have done differently, or I would suggest you do differently, and, you know, coach them through those things. And I mean, there's a lot of managers that just want to slough things off and go, well, I hope they do a better job next time, or I'm going to wait to see if they do a better job next time. And
if you could pass on any advice to future managers, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, and I asked a similar question of a mentor when I first got a leadership role, and the answer that they gave me was, don't be afraid to have the difficult conversation. You know, it's sometimes being a leader and having to talk to employees about the things that you wouldn't even think of, like dress code, or you know, particular language or attitude that an employee might be displaying inside of the organization, or a performance issue. You know, those aren't fun conversations. But the earlier that you can have those conversations, and the more direct you can be with the employee about exactly how you feel, the better the outcome's going to be.
I think it would be, don't make the mistake of keeping your door shut and being busy with things that aren't productive.
Communication is key. Understanding your own strengths and your own weaknesses, I think, is really important, because then you're able to find people that kind of fill that gap.
I just say, more than anything, trust yourself. I know when I first started as a manager a couple years ago, I kind of made myself miserable because I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform and really let the job stress me out, instead of just remembering that it's just work, that you remember that you got that management position for a reason, and that anytime you doubt yourself, you know, you have people to lean on, but just, you know, they wanted you to be there, they hired you, or they promoted you. So just trust yourself, trust what you did before, and if you do that, you should be good.
To know their company's policies and follow them.
Don't be afraid to do the stuff that you're asking your staff to do. Most of us have done it to get to where we are, but once you get there, you think, oh, I don't have to do this stuff anymore. Wrong. You have to do this stuff forever. That's what we do in that job.
Be patient.
When it comes to being a manager, just be yourself and find a style that works for you. Because there are all types of managers and all types of ways to be successful as a manager. I would think the one common thread is, you know, if you're naturally a laid back person, like I think I am for the most part, then, you know, don't try to go against what your personality is. Just find a way to be successful within what your natural strengths and personality is.
I would say always have your integrity. Whatever you believe in, whatever you're trying to sell to your employees, it's got to be of integrity.
Listen to your people. Don't jump the gun. Remove your pride, and don't be too quick to answer questions.
Human resources is my best friend. I have a great contact there. I think you need a good resource there because managing people is like partly law. So, I mean, we can tell them what all we think, but we need to abide by the rules and regulations that are set forth with HR.
Couple things, you know, that I'll leave you with, and that is you praise publicly and you admonish privately. My biggest pet peeve is when somebody is being chastised in a public setting. I just think that is not the right way, but it's sure okay to praise publicly. So by and large, you have to be caring and compassionate. And if people see that you care, then they'll really try even harder, right? And you have to really learn what someone's life is beyond just the job.
I would say the number one thing I've learned from this project is that what makes a good manager is your ability to foster a relationship with your employees. Every one of my interviewees listed this as their greatest strength, and it's really that trust and communication that you build with the people you're in charge of that wins them to your cause and that makes them confident in your leadership ability.
The main takeaway I have from this project is that managers need to be patient, they need to communicate well, and they need to be flexible. Also, many managers like for many of their employees to have a lot of these same qualities. Thank you.
I should say that I really enjoyed this project. I enjoyed hearing the different managers I interviewed and also hearing what my teammates managers say. It was interesting how they all kind of had a common thread to them. And I think what I learned from it is that it's less about managing specific tasks and even managing people. It's more about giving people growth opportunities and helping people feel like a part of a team, and ultimately they are going to work wonders for you and they are going to grow and you get some gratification from that as well. You know, certainly being able to apply the theories as we learn them to the interviews and putting this presentation together was invaluable, and it was just a really great experience altogether.
So one of the things that I learned during this interview process is that when managers are first starting out, they have a much more autocratic attitude. There's a lot of pressure on them to succeed, and they're much more rigid in their management style, needing things to be done their own way. As they gain management experience, they begin to allow their employees to do things their own way. There's a lot better communication. They're checking in to make sure their employees have everything to succeed, and that everything is being done well and on time. But you know, they understand at that point that not everything has to be done exactly the way that they would do it in order for there to be success.